Greetings, this is the second episode of the series, where I roughly explain the Unity interface, and how does asset bundles work in Unturned. This episode will be pretty dry, as the stuff that I am going to introduce will get very technical. I will try my best to make this episode as interesting as possible. I will also feature one of my past works that I have done before I started on Unturned modding. This game, momenTurn, is a game that can only be played with one button. I will use this game's project file to guide through the Unity interface. First thing we would learn is how does Unity games work. All Unity games run a scene, which can be seen on this window. Think of it as a stage, where the props and environment is placed, and people play in it. Multiple scenes may be used as different levels for a game. So what are the things that run around in the scenes? All objects in Unity are called game objects. All game objects in the scene will be displayed in the hierarchy view. The order of the game objects can be sorted here. How grouping game objects works in Unity, is by parenting them. This can be done by dragging the intended game object into the other. The topmost object is called the parent object, and all objects grouped underneath it are called child objects. All attributes that are applied to the parent object, will also be applied to the child object. However, game objects by their own doesn't really do anything. To add functionality to the game objects, we would need to include something called components. Components may vary based on what is needed from the game object. A component may be a light source, model, audio source, or even physical properties. Game objects are basically containers, where components are the ingredients that makes up the items for the game. The inspector window is used to add and edit the properties of the components in the game objects. All game objects will have a transform component. Now it is time to talk about the basic controls in Unity. To navigate around the scene, select the Move tool, shortcut Q. You can look around in the scene view by holding down right-click. While holding down right-click, you can move around in the scene camera using WASD. In the event that you lost position of the item that you are working on, you can select the game object from the hierarchy, and press Shift F or double-click for the scene camera to focus back on the game object. The other transform tools in the toolbar is used to change view position, move, rotate and scale game objects from the scene view. To change the tools quickly, shortcuts W, E, and R can be used. Changing the transform gizmo toggles will affect the behavior of the tools. You can also change the transformation of the game objects by tweaking the values from the inspector. The scene gizmo at the top right of the scene window allows you to change to the planar views easily. Clicking the cube at the center of it allows you to switch the camera between perspective view and orthographic view. The bottom of the editor is the project window, which is the view or what shows the assets folder directory of the project. This is the location where game assets such as models, images, and audio files go to. The import settings for the assets can be adjusted from the inspector as well. It is something to take note as there may be certain settings that might cause issues with the content that you are working on if not set correctly. The directory of the project files can be found in the Explorer, by right-clicking the project window and select, Show in Explorer. Now that we have gone through the Unity interface, it is time to explain what are prefabs. Short form for prefabrication, they are game objects that has attributes pre-assigned so that they can be easily manipulated. For the example of this case, the coins in this game are prefabs. Instead of creating a new game object to assign components and values every time I want to add a coin, I can simply drag and drop the coin prefab in. Prefabs can be identified from the hierarchy as their names will be blue. It is time to look back at the Unturned Asset Bundler project. This is the gun example the game provides. From the folder, there are multiple items and prefabs in it and they have different functions. The names of the files and prefabs are case sensitive. The import settings and the prefabs has to be set correctly, or else the items would not work. To export the file such that it can be used in-game, select the folder of the item you want to export. While the folder is highlighted, go to the bundle tool and press grab. A list and 2 buttons below should appear in the bundle tool. From there, press the bundle button. There should be an option to save the Unity 3D file. Personally, I create a folder to keep all the compiled items. The Unity 3D file is what the game refers to when the item loads in-game. This pretty much sums up this episode. In terms of the Unity interface, I would recommend you to look up on your own on other videos, or even read up the official Unity documentation, to have a better idea on how to use Unity. The next episode will explain how items work in-game. Maikee Maous signing off.